In today's episode of the Euro Football Verdicts podcast, we will look at the rise of the nouveau riche from Paris and the fall of Atalanta's European summer dream. Then we will look at the Bulls and how they ran over the Atletico defense, at least eventually. We'll take a look at the wows of Bayern Munich and the boos targeted at Barcelona. And finally, also take a look at what happened in Alvalade, where City yet again did not manage to reach the semifinals. Who's to blame for that one? Follow this and much more in today's Europe Football Verdicts podcast. Hi guys, welcome to the third episode of the Euro Football Verdicts. Today I'm joined with my co-host Marco. Hi Marco.
Hey Alex, how are you doing? Welcome everyone.
Very, very well. Today, Stefano cannot be with us, but still, we're going to do, as always, take a look at what happened in the past week of the UEFA Champions League. Very, very interesting games down in Lisbon. We had some very surprising results. So, some amazing performance and some dire performances. So let's take a look, and we're going to start off with the first one in the Stadio de Luz on Wednesday, PSG Atalanta.
On Wednesday, we had a very interesting game, Alex. I think that was one of the more awaited games, at least for Italian fans such as myself. Atalanta was a little bit of our small dream that was, could eventually come true. As we discussed also in the past episode of the podcast, one of the most affected cities due to the coronavirus, and very simply a team that has put a great effort. Just to put a number, the salary of Neymar itself, like just a single player, Neymar, is the same as the whole Atalanta salary cap. So two very different teams. I think very good performance by Atalanta. At least personally, I also want to hear your input, of course. They did the game that they had to do. Some counter-attacking, overall good play, of course. Throughout the whole game, I think we could see PSG was better. Neymar had many chances to score goals, so even in the first half, he missed a couple. But eventually, in the 90th minute, with two back-to-back goals, PSG managed to bring it home, basically. Now, first semi-final in Champions League in 20 plus years for PSG. So quite exciting stuff. I think everyone is quite excited down in Paris. But what are your thoughts about the game?
Well, I think there are two distinct thoughts in my head. The first on the PSG side, you saw a team of stars up front. But with the midfield, my lord, that midfield was just slow and poor and defensive, and like they were scared, like they don't have a 222 million winger in the field, like they were three defensive midfielders trying to protect everything. So they showed respect to Atalanta, and Atalanta really, really took advantage of it, and despite conceding some chances to PSG, which Atalanta always does, they seemed quite comfortably. Then eventually around minutes 60, 70, or 70 more, once you put Mbappe on the field, that's where the difference for me was.
The first ball he touched, you could see there was big danger. While I was watching the game, I was quite surprised just how he can change a team with a single dribble. He was getting the ball on the left. Hateboer was not there. The Gasperini, the Atalanta manager, had to change the central defender on the right side because of how much Mbappe was pressuring him. And then eventually also he managed to get 2 yellow cards for both the wingback and the substitute that got in. So that just shows how destructive he was in the week. He really changed the game. And he was out of form. What can we see now in the upcoming weeks if he gets back really in form after the injury?
Yeah, it's really absurd, right? I mean, it's let's be honest, it's the Ballon d'Or in the making. The kid, he's 2021 now. So his quality is absurd. Whilst it was only Neymar, because honestly, Sarabia had one of the worst games in this week in the Champions League for me. We're gonna get to who had the worst, but still, Sarabia was really bad. He couldn't just. He was inexistent.
Yeah.
So you had Icardi trying to, but Icardi is a striker, a number 9, a poacher. He was not the one who's going to pick up the balls from the midfield and drive.
He doesn't change a team. He scores goal, but he's not a team player. He just waits there, like Pippo Inzaghi back in the day, right? He waits there. Eventually, a ball comes, bam, it shoots it in, and it's 1 goal. Like that's what Icardi does. There wasn't the game for Icardi, and I think also, as you mentioned before, the midfield issues that PSG had during the game. So the lack of Verratti and Di Maria, who at the end of the day are the 2 players in the midfield, giving a little bit of quality and you know that fantasy also, you know, coming up with a nice play, with a soft touch, with the quality stuff, wasn't there. Simply, it was a very static midfield. To be honest, even like players such as Rabiot, who PSG left last year, I don't think would have changed much. And I think there's a clear. Basically, this game was screaming for PSG to buy a couple of new players in the midfield. I think up front, despite, you know, as you mentioned, Sarabia and other players not really performing, you could see the quality was there. Just they weren't getting enough quality balls to score and create chances.
To be honest, also a couple of midfielders were still sitting in the stands, you know, in terms of Di Maria and Verratti, who could have, who are actually the ones who would be starting. It wouldn't be under Herrera for sure, you know.
Yeah, that's true. But again, you know, you can't have them injured and you don't have a substitution. And it's not about having a very strong, you don't need an Arthur, let's say, to be the sub of Verratti, but at least you need a very good, talented midfield. I mean, your PSG, your goal is to win the Champions League. When you look at the subs that, let's say, Bayern Munich or City can put in, I think there's definitely higher quality than the ones that PSG can. Up front, yes, you have many players. You even have Cavani that wasn't even, you know, part of the game. He's gonna leave, and there's probably the reason why he wasn't part of the game. But still, like, you had plenty of good quality players in the defense as well, with a couple of youngsters coming in, be it through acquisitions or from the, let's say, the youth systems. They have a couple of decent prospects. I think in the midfield is where they were lacking the most at the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. So great win for PSG on that end for them. You know, it's finally the accomplishing of their target, reaching at least a semi-final. Yeah. It's been in the making since Qatar Sports Authority bought the club. So their plan at least is going then well on that side. What about for the little engine that almost could? Are we going to see Atalanta back again next season at this stage of the Champions League, or was it a one-off for you?
It's hard to say right now. We see many players like, as we already discussed, the key of Atalanta play is swings, and Hateboer today mentioned that he sees himself out of the project, so he's gonna leave Atalanta. He already asked to be sold, basically. Gosens or Gosens, whether you wanna read it at the German or the Dutch, as he has double nationality, is on the way of leaving to move to Germany as well. Couple of millions coming in, well, couple more than that, of course, probably somewhere between 40 and 60 million for the 2 players. But it also means that you have to buy. And as we discussed, Gasperini has a very strict way of playing, and he needs the player really to get in the mindset of how he's playing. He's very good at making mediocre player extraordinary. At the same time, he's not quite good at making extraordinary player accept his tactical style. So let's see how those millions will be spent. Of course, when you're buying players for 5-6 millions, you can get them really. You can get like the pearl and the gem that you're looking for, but you also can get very bad deals. So it's quite hard at this moment. We have to see how the transfer market goes, I think.
Very, very well. congratulations to PSG, and from our side also, well done for Atalanta. Definitely putting on the show. I think the whole continent cried a bit when that goal went in, but it was very, very, very strong performance from them at the Stadio de Luz on Wednesday. And now let's look at what happened on the following day in Alvalade, where Atletico Madrid and Red Bull Leipzig had a very, very interesting tactical match. So yeah, on Thursday we had the interesting match at Alvalade between Rasenballsport Leipzig, official name, and Atletico Madrid. Finished 2-1. Very, very tactical masterclass from both managers. Very even game, actually. Started with superiority of Red Bull Leipzig. Clearly, Atletico respected a lot Leipzig from the start, putting their lines quite together. You know, critically, the biggest critics also pointed Simeone, you know, the so-called lack of cojones, if we say it in Spanish, in terms of putting Marcos Llorente playing instead of João Felix, the 120 million wonder kid. Stayed sitting down at the bench. So it was with no surprise that Leipzig went strong, controlled, eventually, but reached nothing. Second half, Dani Olmo comes good with a goal. And then finally, you saw Atletico pushing it. You saw, for me, man of the match with a clear difference performance from Upamecano. What a great match that the young Frenchman played. But once João Felix came in the match, the kid just tore it to pieces, the defense. Had 2 chances and the second one gains a penalty. And then on a counter, Leipzig ferocious as they've always been in Germany, despite not having Timo Werner, who went to Chelsea, and the Tyler Adams being really, really lucky. But still doing the 2-1 in a very interesting match. So, yeah, what are your highlights? How do you see, for you, the performance of Atletico, for instance? Was it really that they were scared of Leipzig?
Well, the thing about Atletico, they always structure their tactical plan around counterattack and really not keeping the ball. And as we could also see during this game, right? The majority of the initiative was in Leipzig's hands, which is quite surprising as they were also coming in as the underdog for sure in this game. However, and that's where I think also the problem is for Atletico. They're still, that's my personal opinion really, but they're using too much the old central line that Simeone created, like the lieutenants, if you wish, that he had along those years. Diego Costa is still up front. Well, you have 2 players that you're investing basically almost 200 million in the bench, such as Morata and João Felix. Now, we can all, it's arguable whether Morata is any better of the 2 that started the game. However, that also means that there is some kind of lack of renewing the cycle. It's quite hard. You have a couple of players that got in that manage, but again, what we saw in the midfield is still Saul Koke as starting 11. And I think that's a little bit of a problem here. Well, on the other hand, we see a team that really structures everything on youngsters. As you mentioned, Timo Werner not being there was a huge loss. And personally, I think that you could really see it in the attack. There was that lack, of I don't know, that speed and that decisiveness that Timo Werner brings to the team. However, they put out a very strong performance. Campo, I think, very good player as well. Upamecano, amazing performance, really strong in the defense. And also the 3 behind Poulsen. So Sabitzer, Olmo, and Kuku, I think quite a good performance from them. They did what they were expecting them to be, like what people were expecting them to do, which, against a team such as Atletico Madrid in a top 8 of Champions League, first time many of these players have been at these levels. It's quite impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, no, definitely. I have to admit the midfielders of Leipzig, the way they controlled it. Yes, it's true. Poulsen was a bit stuck in that jail built by Atletico with Savic and Enes really controlling a bit his movements. He had to go many times on the wings to get any contact with the ball, because if you try it through the midfield, through the center, forget it. Even the goals, even the goal of Adams comes not because the defense makes a mistake, but because the midfielder doesn't follow Adams coming from behind, because their defense, Atleti's defense, is to no surprise, wow, really, really strong. So they had to suffer a goal like that, coming from a midfielder mistake more than anything.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I'm not sad to see Atletico leave like I was with Atalanta. They're an interesting football club, but they're due a renewal, and I'm concerned about the future, of players that, like
Is the
João
cycle over?
Felix.
Is the cycle over? I think this is the main question that everyone had on their mind. It's a couple of years that Atletico is still up there. However, it's a couple of years it's not performing as they used to. So just in the Liga, they come very far from the top two. They never really pulled a thread. Actually, they at a certain point they were even out of the top four of the Liga. So that really shows that there is something going on. The new players can't take yet the place of the old ones, and also the starting 11 really shows that. You have a couple like Oblak, extraordinary goalie, and he managed to put himself in the lead of the goalkeeping position. But on the other hand, the team is quite old, and there are great players on the bench, but they're not playing. So what does that mean? Why Lemar hasn't seen the pitch yet this week? So you have Partey, you have many great players on the bench, to be honest, and they're just not being put there for Simeone. It might be because he felt they were too young, not ready, paying a little bit the lack of experience, but still there is something that has to be changed, and I think it has to be from the ground up. So completely changing, getting rid of many of the lieutenants and create a new cycle with or without Simeone.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's the big question in terms of that, of what is gonna be the future of the manager of Atletico. But someone whose future definitely is gonna change is a manager on another Spanish bench, which takes us back to the Estadio de Luz for the match that happened on Friday.
Barcelona versus Bayern Munich. I think that was by far the most entertaining game I've seen in many years, and at the same time was definitely the one game everyone was looking for. So when we look at our predictions, we definitely mentioned a goleada, many goals in this game. Well, little did we know that this would have been a 10 goals game and an 8-2, which it's absurd. And if we really want to make a joke, actually 9 goals from Bayern Munich.
That's true.
It was shocking, I would say. I really like the words to express how lost was Barcelona in the pitch. They didn't know what to do. In this whole second half, the defense was doing long shots, like long throws, sorry, to the attack. Just route one. Get the ball, throw it far. Let's hope that someone picks it up because we have small and fast striker up top. Barcelona doing that? What's happened? What happened to the tiki-taka, to the Guardiola kind of play coming even before, right? From Rijkaard and then what happened to the style? Is this really the new Barcelona? Have we lost what Barcelona is, or is it just Setien who came in? Let's not forget, just 8 months ago. So it's still quite young, if you wish, as a manager in Barcelona. But I think his days are gone. I mean, we can quickly touch upon that afterwards. But is it just a manager? Is it just the player not reacting no more? Is it mentally? Because we all know in which mental status they were coming to the game, right? Many discussions about the management, about the coach, about whether possibly even Messi is leaving or is not leaving, many discussions were going on at the time. But that 8-2, never seen that coming.
Yeah, no, definitely. And honestly, in this match, and I think I mentioned it before already here, definitely I saw the worst performance of a player, which was from Nelson Semedo, the right back of Barcelona. He had a howler of a game. Wow, that was impressive. But the whole start of the game of Barcelona. So, okay, let's imagine this. Let's forget we're Barcelona and we still want to play counter attack, pure counter attack football. How are we going to do this if we have up front only two instead of the normal three? And one of them is 33, 34 years old, and the other is Leo Messi, who, despite being a wonderful player, who no one can say anything against, isn't really known for his excess speed at this age. So they put the midfield together. They close everything down the middle, put the young Busquets, Vidal, Sergi, Roberto, everyone compact in the middle, trying to close the center, leaving the wings completely empty. If on one side Kimmich is not the most offensive right back, on the other side, Davies is basically a left winger. As a left winger who sometimes you need to remind him that he's back. The guy is extraordinary. So 2-on-1, Perisic and him on Semedo, they tore the guy to pieces. But
Semedo also helped there, let's be honest, because someone has to explain me why the whole game he was trying to get, the goal kick from the end, and twice or thrice he lost the ball. Absurd balls on the line that led to Bayern Munich goals. What are you doing there?
No, that is true. That is true. There's a lot of individual blames. Also, Ter Stegen, the way he passes the balls. I think third goal. I mean, honestly, I forget how many there were. I think the third goal was the one which assist of Goretzka to Gnabry, which is I don't know what Ter Stegen wanted to do there, but put the ball above his defense and put it in the middle of the park just for Bayern Munich to be able to attack 5-on-5. It was an absolute disgrace what happened there. The whole thing is a shamble. You start now questioning what exactly is Barcelona's identity anymore. Like what are they? What do they stand for? I'm questioning a lot of things because this won't be a rebuild like change the manager, or change a couple of players. This we're talking structurally rebuild.
Yeah, and Barcelona over the past couple of years at least had a way of playing the same way other big team had, right? And they kept it consistent. I didn't see anything of that. And maybe, it's also linked to what we discussed during the last podcast of last year, City completely changing their playing style because, we won the year before, we know how to play them. And Guardiola going against his tactical belief. Maybe it's something similar, right? The team feels like they're very strong. They couldn't perform also without the manager. It's from the external point of view, at the very least, I haven't seen a strong managerial tactical decision over the past couple of years. It almost feels like it's a, car driving itself, like self-driving car. There is a manager, but it's more to make sure that I pick the right player and I train the player rather than to tell the player what to do. Maybe because you have too strong of a presence in the dressing room of people such as Messi. Maybe it's because you have just too many prima donnas that really want to, play the way they were used to. I didn't see that during the game, though. I think what Barcelona really needs is someone very strong-minded that can bring some tactical structure in the team and can force also the press structure from the ground up. We still have, in my opinion, too many players from the old generation, let's say, and not too many young players that have proven being really good. So if I look at the Suarez, Messi, Busquets, Piqué, that is a little bit of, the backbone of the team. It's still the same backbone that was there 10 years ago, 7 years ago. And from the youngsters, how many players we have seen playing with Piqué? They just keep buying new players. They even bought Mathieu for an absurd amount of money because they were looking for someone that could be quite quick and playing also center back, but what if he needs to play on the wing? But right now, I think they really struggle a little bit again to change completely the cycle while keeping some of the senators in. I really struggle to understand what they were trying to do during the whole game. And of course, it doesn't help, when you're 4-2 at the end of the first half. Mentally doesn't help. You conceded a goal in the first 5 minutes again. Quite shocker. The goal that you score was an own goal, so it doesn't really, feel like you managed to play well. And also, the goal they did is just Suarez being an absolute amazing player. Like that dribble was really good, but it was completely by himself. Like it wasn't a structured approach, a structural, action that's how we're gonna bring it to the goal. Bayern, you knew what they were doing. Strong wing play, center midfielders going in. In my opinion, Lewandowski, one of the worst Lewandowskis of the season, at least compared to the performance of other players in the pitch. Haven't really seen he was doing a lot, let's say, not seeing work in opening channels for the rest, but he wasn't really part of the game. But other than that, just every single player in Bayern Munich, absurd performance.
Yeah. No, it's well, the standard of Lewandowski is the one that he scores a goal and we say, he was, he didn't have a good game because that's his standard now. He's a Ballon d'Or contender level. No, I think the Bavarian side were extraordinary on Friday. And I mean, we touch on Davis, as in my opinion, I think the sensation, the rookie of the year in Europe. I think the guy is absurd. It's at 19, 20 years old and doing this amount of. He's already confidently the best left wing back in the world currently.
Let me add one thing to this. Mentally, he's a very stable player. Like you could really see what he has experienced as a kid, right? Coming from, I believe, Liberia in Africa until he was 5 years old. Really, yet he's an amazing player. It's absurd. He is in the right spot every time. He knows where to move. He sees the game like no one else. It almost feels, like, someone playing FIFA, that from above you can see all the movement of all the players, and then you just position yourself in the best possible spot. And you see players moving. Oh, he's following that other player. There's a channel. Let me go in there. No one can do this job as well as Müller does.
No, definitely. It was a great game, and honestly, easily title favorites, I think, from everyone. I think you have to be crazy not to put some money on Bayern. Honestly.
I believe 63 goals from Bayern in this Champions League, on average, more than 4 goals on average during this Champions League year. Absurd performances.
And we're talking almost one in every 8 there was to Barcelona. So
yeah,
it's absurd. But yeah, so that was it for the Stade de Luz. Then the following day we had the final match, and some surprise, we might say, in the city against the great team of Olympique Lyonnais. So yeah, that was it from the Stadio d'Alvalade and the quarterfinals. It finished with the City game. A big surprise, right? I mean, 3-1 for Olympique Lyonnais, and I think the whole continent was in shock seeing the result. At least most of us, didn't even bother to think of the possibility that Lyon could get something out of it. Although they had warned us the game before with Juventus that they can stay back, they can take up some pressure, they can soak it up and then counter very, very interestingly. So,
in my opinion, they of course played better. Lyon did the game they had to do, very counter-attacky, very fast player up top, exploiting as much as possible the weaknesses of the City defense. Because they weren't moving that well. I think Walker, quite a bad game for him. I wanna go too much around that. On the wing, he really lost a lot of balls, similar to Semedo. Missing the header, I believe, on the first goal, almost conceding a penalty. Just not the strongest performance from him. But the whole team, I think there was something lacking. The most absurd thing is that I feel the best and the worst player of City were the same. I'm not sure if you have the same feeling, but Sterling, literally every offensive action coming from City during the game had Sterling in it, either with a very good dribble or because of the pace, or just a nice pass in the space. And then that absurd miss at what was it, a couple of minutes from the end of the game. That was a shocker, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was definitely the miss of the week by far, honestly. I think everyone, but we need to go into one mistake for me, and that one is Josep Guardiola's mistake. Initial mistake on how he set up the team. It was an absolute surprise to see City playing with a three-man defense with another two wing-backs on it, because Guardiola entails this countless times. I never adapt my teams to an opponent. And what does he do? He is worried about the way they could attack him on the defense, so he's changed the whole tactical setup of the team, making Fernandinho, who is already a below par center-back for the City level, when a two-man center-backs playing in a three-man center-back. That was an absolute shocker of a decision. I think everyone was shocked, a surprising decision. And honestly, some blame has to be kept at the level of Guardiola, because the countless times they reach this stage of quarterfinals and they never go through with him.
Yeah, I indeed fully agree with you. I don't think the whole blame should go on Sterling or on Ederson. Very bad performance from him, let's be honest. But still, I think City had all the keys to win this game. And the structure that Guardiola brought to the game, of course, he didn't want to use certain players, such as David Silva, probably moving out in a couple of days now. But also, indeed, as you mentioned, the three-man defense, you could really see there was something missing in the movements. They weren't as coordinated as I saw them also just last week, really. It's quite weird. Indeed, as you mentioned, Guardiola always gets there and then he fails. And let's be honest, he often fails in the same way. He adapts. Is it because he felt pressures of winning every time, as given how much he's paid? And so he says, yeah, but they are really training just for me now, so I need to change something. However, anytime it changes, it doesn't work. So what is right, it's hard to say, but definitely what he's doing is not the right thing.
That is true. Something is really wrong there at City. We thought, that this was going to be their comeback, being able to challenge once again after defeating UEFA in the courts. They were going to be one of the contenders for this. Now again, they're leaving everyone wanting a bit more from them. They could go out to Bayern and everyone would still say, fair game, but going out to Olympique Lyon, you start to have to ask questions about this team. I mean, it's not like Lyon is, an Atalanta who has a very clear, distinct game plan and style. No, I mean, it's Lyon, which is a respectful team, but it's still Lyon.
But they finished 7 in Ligue 1, which is, again, not anything against our French friends, but it's not the most competitive league in Europe. It's not the most balanced. Germany, I think it's way more balanced, for instance, as a league. Premier League, getting 7th in the Premier League is not like getting 7th in Ligue 1. So there is something that hasn't worked during the season. Very good, in my opinion, tactical preparation from the former Roma manager in Lyon. He really structured very well, Rudy Garcia. The team knew what to do. He found the weaknesses of the team in the slow defense. And of course, as we mentioned, the three-man defense didn't help in getting the automatism that the team had during the whole season in the defense movements. So that further strengthened the tactical style that Rudy Garcia had in mind. But it just worked once again. Lyon delivering.
And before we go into the whole discussion about the farmers' leagues, as many people put them, with nonetheless France having two representatives in the semifinals and Germany having another two. I wanted to know on your side, what is for you the manager of the week and the player of the week?
I think we cannot not give to Bayern the manager of the week. The performance was absurd. The way they prepared and they destroyed Barcelona is just astonishing, and the manager had a lot to do with that. The player gave in an amazing performance, but everyone knew what to do. Like the assist to Gnabry, that no look, that is all about the manager reinforcing the same movements, the same tactical advice with the same player over and over during the whole season, and it's paying off. Mm-hmm. When it's about the best player, there were so many that did a very good performance, but personally, the one player that I've seen really saving a team from the destruction is Mbappe. He came in a completely lost PSG. At the 60 minutes, it was 0-1. PSG wasn't performing that well. He got in, and they had probably 10 actions within the first 20 minutes, and then 2 goals. And anytime he was touching the ball, he was something different. I just want to highlight how much a good player, by giving him the best player, how much a good player can change a team even in 30 minutes. You don't need a whole game. We've seen great players not performing that well. Messi, for instance, arguably the best player of our generation.
That's just amazing work from Hansi Flick. I think player of the week, the man, the myth, the legend of Upamecano. I mean, he was just a beast at the game of Atleti. He
didn't do a single mistake the whole game.
Nah, and honestly, the amount of times the commentator was saying Upamecano, like the amount of times he would just collect the ball, no issues, press, stop, a man-on-man marking perfectly, putting Diego Costa down to his knees, which is not easy. He was perfect. So I think that's my player of the week for sure. And now let's look ahead at what the second week of the UEFA Champions League in Lisbon has to offer us with the semifinals. So the semifinals are going to be played this week in the beautiful city of Lisbon, starting on Tuesday at 8 p.m. local time. We'll have Leipzig playing against PSG. So, Marco, what can we expect here from PSG? Many doubts regarding the fitness of the players, obviously. Is this where the little engine from Leipzig stops from the youngsters of Jürgen Nagelsmann, or will they have?
But what we did see is nothing of that quality. He was touching the ball. Yes, a couple of good crosses from the right, but we expect more from Messi than a couple of good crosses.
Yeah, no, definitely. I will join you on manager of the week being Hansi Flick. I think you said it all out there. You know, when you see how the team performs, even that we cannot even say there was one player who really stood out because everyone was so excellent. I think something more in their tank that PSG can't just cope with.
As a team, end-to-end, I see Leipzig coming better to this game. Personally, they have also that level of, how can I say, they're coming as an underdog. They know that they are the underdog, and they are happy to be in the underdog. They don't feel forced of doing something that is not in their courts. They won't force the game to go the way they want. They will adapt, which is what Leipzig has done very well the whole season. They have great players. PSG, as we mentioned before, very good player. I don't think it's such a strong of a team itself. Not that bonded. Still a couple of gaps in the starting 11 in terms of quality. However, where I do see this game being decided on is going to be on the lack of player, on who's going to miss the game. So on one hand, we already mentioned Leipzig not coming with the strongest attack, as Timo Werner, by far the star of Leipzig this year, at least in the attack part, will be missing. While in PSG, we still need to assess what's going to be the fitness of Mbappe. Verratti is expected to still be injured. Di Maria, we have, again, to check that as well, but I don't expect him to be part of the game. Many good players not making this semifinal, which is quite a shame. Of course, I guess everyone would have loved to see the best 11s from both ends. However, yeah, it's quite hard to say. I would say Leipzig scraping this one.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one because also it depends on the fitness levels of the PSG players. All those standing in the stands, will they be able to join the team come next Tuesday? That will make a difference because, let's be honest, the same team played against Atalanta will never make it past Leipzig. They're just too strong. Nagelsmann is an extraordinary up-and-coming manager. Honestly, he has arrived. That he's no longer up-and-coming. Everyone knows what he's about. He's 33 years old. He's younger than Messi, but he knows what he wants from his teams. He requires the discipline to work in that system, and he's going to go into even better things after. I'm just worried, and seeing how João Felix affected Leipzig, I'm just worried if Mbappe is there with Neymar, how can they cope? Because that's something they don't see. They see tactical organization, they see physical attributes in the German league, but they do not often go into against world-class players. Except for Bayern, So how do they cope with the flair ones is the question. Will Upamecano have another perfect performance? Because he needs to have one if he wants to his fellow countrymen and Neymar. So I think Red Bull Leipzig will do it. The physicality of the game will drive PSG nuts, and they will do it.
Yeah, same. Wouldn't be surprised if this ends up in extra time, to be honest. I think it's quite even game, and indeed it's going to come to the details of both teams.
And then the second game played out on Wednesday. Lyon will play the big, mean Bavarian team of Bayern Munich, because Bayern has the highest line actually in Europe by far in the way they pressure. So they have some gaps in the back. Although Davies isn't the slowest one to get back, right? So
we also have Alaba. And precisely Alaba now playing center back that really covers for those fast players coming in from Lyon. I want really to find someone that is able to argue with me why Lyon should win this one. After the performance we have seen from Bayern, the only other performance such as this that comes to mind is really Germany-Brazil. And with such a performance where, again, they weren't even that tired at the end. Barcelona didn't make them sweat for them to win the game. Coutinho couldn't believe that he had scored 2 and made an assist in literally less than 20 minutes of game. Yet that happened. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Bayern again gets many goals in this game. Lyon is a David versus Goliath. How long can it last? I think this is the end of their amazing journey in the Champions League. But let's see. I mean, we have had many small teams doing well over the past couple of years, but when it came to the very end, the big team always won it. And we had the Roma coming to the semifinals. We have the Borussia Dortmund when they still were in the Dortmund they used to be. We had many smaller teams going quite far over the past 10 years, but none of them really managed to win everything. And personally, seeing this Bayern, I struggle to see how any team can beat them.
Yeah, no, I'll tend to agree with you. I think this is when it stops for the team from Lyon. I think that Bayern is just a powerhouse of right now, both physically, tactically, mentally. They're just perfect. Honestly, they're the closest thing you have to a perfect team here. They're just too strong, and Lyon will lose for sure, despite us predicting them that they would already be out by now twice, and we failed. It's not to say once it gets into a final that the pressure on top. The expectation on Bayern to deliver might be something affecting, but at the semi-final level,
it was something different. They were playing a different sport.
But I wanted to ask you one last thing before we finish up this week is the format that we currently have with one game. How are you experiencing it? Do you like it? Would you like it to come to fruition more often next year? Would you like to see it again, or is it just a whole lot of rubbish and we shouldn't scrape it forever?
Personally, I really like this Mundialito, as they call it, right? So one game, and if you lose it, you're out. It's really making it a little bit more consistent. So you really experience the Champions League end-to-end. Feels like a different tournament compared to what we used to be, right? Something that goes along the whole season. Feels more of a World Cup for clubs or something like that. And however, I must say, I like it. It's really, it's back-to-back, many games. The teams are staying consistent in terms of form, which is something that I never liked in the quarterfinal mostly of the Champions League during the other years. Sometimes you almost have a month between one game and the other if you are the first to play. That is too long, and you can really see how form plummets or can rise, and that really changes, the history of the game. If one of your best players gets injured and you won, even if you won by a lot the first game, then you don't have the player for the second leg, and it's a completely different story. Here, it's full focus on Champions League. Nothing external can affect what happens in the pitch, which I'm a fan of. Then again, we also heard what was mentioned by UEFA, right? It's impossible to expect something like this to happen in the upcoming future because the calendars do not allow for that. So if they were to continue with this, it's definitely not going to be next year. It's going to be in a couple of years when they restructure the whole Champions League. Possibly with also the third cup coming in, more games going on, and maybe creating a little bit of this premium focus on Champions League, which we'll always have, but even more. And having this Mundialito, I think that quite works.
Now, I agree with you. I think it's a very interesting proposition. I think it gives also possibility, for the smaller teams to really do some surprises, because over 2 legs, it's almost impossible to beat the giant. Whilst here, the giant killing can occur more often. I think it should be a format. The Football Academy would like to see this more often, but let's be honest, UEFA needs also the extra games because more viewership, more advertising, more money in the end.
More often, basically. So
that's going to be the primary objective, especially going out of this crisis. To get money back into clubs, they would need to be more reliant on TV revenue. So this system, I think it's a one-off, but it was a very interesting one nonetheless.
Also on fans, of course, right? If you play something like this, it has to be in the same city, and you cannot ensure that the stadium is fully crowded with your own fans buying merchandise and so on, because you're in a neutral country. That doesn't work in terms of money. From a football perspective, I quite enjoyed it.
So that was it for the Euro football verdicts of this week. Very, very interesting times ahead with the semifinals and then the final of the UEFA Champions League. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. And Marco, thank you so much for all your contribution.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you everyone listening to this.
Thanks, guys.